really excited to bring Mark McClain up here. You know, to do one IPO in your lifetime is a big deal. Mark has actually taken the same company public twice, and recently took it public for $1.38 billion. And so not only is Mark a great guy, he's a big supporter of this ministry, and we appreciate you, Mark. Thank you for doing that, and thank you for being here.
Yeah. Mark,
pleasure.
Very happy to be here with you today, man.
Good to see you, brother.
Carl also forgot to mention that you sold your first company for $150 million. So you are absolutely a business inspiration to so many. I think I interviewed you a couple years ago. And
you've become quite a bigger deal. Me, I'm just kind of doing this IPO thing.
Well,
it's like
I'm still learning a lot from you. I wanted to ask you, I think I asked you in that previous interview, what did it feel like to take a company public? You know, that's every entrepreneur's dream, to one day kind of ring that bell on NASDAQ. Like you said, you took the company public, it went private, and then you went public again. What does that feeling feel like to somebody who may not know?
I think surreal is the only really good word. That it's very surreal. And I'm weird. I wasn't the guy who always thought that was going to happen. I was not thinking that was the outcome. We sold our first company, and we started this one thinking that was the most likely outcome again. Venture-backed, you know. I always say I'm not even close to as brave as the guys that do it like they've done it, like credit cards and sleepless nights. I was happy to try to waste other people's money, but in this case it worked out. But I think there's just this like, well, we'll never get there. We'll probably sell the business, and then that happened. And I, to your point, Carl's point, distinctly remember thinking in 2017, well, this is awesome. I'll certainly never do this again. And then we did it again. It's a very long, complicated story. But all that to say, there is a sense of you're kind of in the center of raw capitalism, I like to call it, in New York, and that's what it is. It's raw. It's kind of good and bad. You see some of the amazing impact you're having on people's lives. There's a lot of financial reward for people that have helped you get to that journey. And then there's a lot of negativity in the world of raw capitalism. So as a believer, I think you have to kind of navigate the positive aspects of what you can do to help people and create an environment that loves and honors people, and kind of navigate the money-hungry world of Wall Street. Right. So it's just an interesting challenge.
So, you know, as a believer, like you said, how do you kind of balance, you know, your pursuit and quest for the immense success that you've had in the business world, financially, with that balance of faith and family as well? How do you kind of, I mean, is it a strategy? Have you thought about that? I mean, what is your thought process like when you're separating those two?
Yeah, I always start with one word here, which is intentionality. You don't accidentally get to a work-life balance when you do this. It's like, hey, I just lucked into a perfect work-life balance. That doesn't happen. The word I've used, which is so non-marketable, and I actually had a marketing background, so I apologize for this as I say it, but the game I have learned is to achieve what I call temporary, healthy imbalance. Temporary, healthy imbalances. Because what you're doing all the time is navigating, oh gosh, work is really intense right now, my family's gonna pay the price a little bit. That, if you think you're gonna go into starting or running a business and there will be zero sacrifice for your family, you should keep your corporate job. Like, that's not real. On the other hand, lots of entrepreneurs and business leaders sacrifice their family on the altar of success. And I have spoken to MBA programs, for instance, and I have intentionally kind of scared the crap out of younger MBA students and said, look, here's what you don't want to be. You don't want to be my age in a 20,000 square foot house by yourself after your third divorce with your kids in rehab. And I have a lot of friends like that. That's not a successful life. They may have built a successful business. That is not a successful life. And so to achieve a successful life, you're going to have intentionality about this. And this silly phrase, which I probably should try to come up with a better one. We might market it. Who knows? But temporary, healthy imbalance says you're going to be constantly adjusting in and out of various temporary levels of engagement in various parts of your life. The trick is to keep it healthy as you can and know that it's never going to be perfectly balanced. And that's the game. You're like the tightrope guy. You're never just standing there going, got it. I've got 37.9% of my life in my family, 29.8% in my church, 14.12% of my health. I mean, it's like stupid. You're never going to get that, right? So you're constantly rebalancing, but the trick is to rebalance toward a healthy balance that honors God, you know, takes care of your family, and tries to grow your business. And it is possible, but it's hard and it takes intentionality.
Now, you've raised hundreds of millions of dollars. You kind of brought up earlier about how a lack of capital is a big thing that people struggle with in business. Do you have any advice for somebody who they're trying to find those investors, they're trying to get capital to start and grow their businesses? What are you seeing in today's world? Obviously, you're in software, but maybe regardless of the industry that somebody's in, a good way to go about getting capital in today's world, or what you're seeing is the most effective way?
No, it's a great question. And I try to tell people to kind of use the phrase fit for purpose here. The thought there is, depending on what kind of business you're trying to build and the speed at which you're trying to build it and the capital required to build it drives what you need to do for funding. If you're building, to credit Steven and team, if you're building a painting business, you don't have to raise hundreds of millions of dollars. If you're building a tech company that's going to sell to giant corporations, which is what we do, we had to raise a bunch of money. Now, it turns out we only raised 20 million, which is paltry by today's venture world. We've built more money into the company. That was people buying other people out. It wasn't money coming into the business. We raised $20 million to actually build the business over 3 years, which today sounds like nothing. And that's what it took in our minds to get to a stable break-even state where we could then grow from there. But you have to kind of go into it saying, well, here's the kind of business I'm going to build. Here's some sense of the capital I'm going to need. Take the capital you need to get through the phase you're in, prove that it's working, and take more capital. It's almost that simple. So don't raise more than you need. As my former CFO once famously said, too much money burns a hole in your brain, right? Like, if you have too much money, you will spend it, often stupidly, so don't raise more money than you need, but raise enough that you're not doing that horrible, I can't figure out how to make payroll thing if you're gonna raise outside capital. If you're gonna fund it yourself, like the guys have, you're going to have the 2 o'clock mornings. I'm too old for that. I can't do that. I can't.
They always say that more companies die from indigestion than they do from starvation.
Well said.
So I wanted to ask you this. Like you said, you raised $20 million, but you're selling to these tech giants. You're probably going up against companies that have raised hundreds of millions of dollars. Thinking back to your first company that you exited for 9 figures, now this one that has a multi-billion-dollar valuation, what are some things that you've done consistently in the tech business to differentiate yourself, to stand out in a crowded market like the tech industry when you're selling software? How have you consistently differentiated?
And I think, to be fair, it does differ if you're in the B2C world or the B2B world. I've lived my whole career in the B2B world, business to business, meaning we're selling to business. If you're selling to consumers, there's a whole lot of different. I always say consumers scare me to death. I haven't even figured out why MySpace lost to Facebook. I don't even understand that. So consumer scares the heck out of me. I don't get it. But business to business, you have to show up with a clearly differentiated value proposition. And one of the things I'd like to say to our team is the longest term sustainable competitive advantage is listening better. If you're attuned to the market, listening to the customers, humble enough to acknowledge that they know more about their problems than you do, and then you go off and build products that actually solve their problems, shockingly, they will buy your products. And so many tech guys are particularly guilty of just building what they think sounds fun and cool and interesting, and they show up and they're shocked that nobody wants to buy it. And so I tell our team, if we can have that humility and that constant need to listen better, when we show up, and back 25 years ago it was against Oracle and IBM, and today it's against Salesforce or ServiceNow or other big bad software companies, Microsoft, we just have a better product. And we've listened better, and we've built something they need, and they go, that's what I need, I'm gonna buy your stuff. So part of it is very basic blocking and tackling.
So in other words, if you listen to the customer, they're always going to tell you the answer.
No. Sorry. I love to contradict myself. It makes me seem kind of schizophrenic, which is fun at my age. But the point is, you have to listen to customers. You also have to know which customers to listen to. And sometimes they're so angry about the alien on their face, they can't see past that to what you really need to do next. And so you have to kind of choose who you listen to, because not every customer is right, believe it or not. And so that's the art, is listening correctly and filtering out some of the noise to get the common theme so you can go get it right.
Yeah. Well, Mark, we appreciate you being here today. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, guys.